My name is Amy. On a regular day, I'm a recreation therapist with Aurora Healthcare, but today's a special day, so I'm happy to be serving as a volunteer here at the Symposium. My job now is to introduce to you Dr. Rolf Lulloff and LaReina from the Brain Center of Green Bay. They're going to be talking about the 6 pillars of brain health. I'm going to introduce them both, and then we'll welcome them together. Dr. Rolf S. Lulloff, MD, is a retired orthopedic surgeon, co-founder and board president of the Brain Center of Green Bay. Dr. Lulloff graduated from the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine in 1967, completed his internship at the Utah Medical Center in 1968, and then in 1972 completed his residency at the Wisconsin Medical Center in Madison. Dr. Lulloff joined the Westside Clinic in Green Bay, Wisconsin in 1974, which in 1995 became the Prevea Health. He continued his practice with this health system at HSHS St. Mary's Hospital Medical Center until 2017, when he retired and then co-founded the Brain Center of Green Bay. LaReina comes to the Brain Center of Green Bay as a certified advanced practice social worker with a Master of Social Work degree from the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. LaReina has worked closely with those impacted by degenerative brain diseases and their care partners. LaReina has been able to help improve the lives of individuals through engagement, direct practice, connection with outside resources, education, leadership, and prevention efforts. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Rolf Lulloff and LaReina Tipping.
All right, hi everyone, I'm LaReina Tipping from the Brain Center of Green Bay. Welcome all. I'm glad you guys got some lunch before it, so we'll try to keep it a little more exciting. I'm a mover and a shaker. I like to move around the stage, so does Rolf, so then we can also see the slides as well. The Brain Center of Green Bay, I'm going to play a short video and describes who we are and what we do. We are a nonprofit resource center. We are free cost to individuals. Anyone that has a brain, we say come and see us. We work with preventative brain health and wellness. We work with neurodegenerative diseases. We work with connecting with individuals, with our coaching sessions, and then the education that we're doing today. In front of you, you have 2 handouts. You've got the half pamphlet, and that is our pillars of brain health. We have 6 pillars, and those are our mantras. Dr. Lulloff is going to dive into them during the presentation, so feel free to kind of follow along that way. I believe the PowerPoints will be sent out as well. The 6 mantras, or the pillars, are what we focus on in our coaching sessions as well. So I would encourage you all to go to our website. You could actually go on, see who our coaches are, and schedule an appointment with them if you're from our area or if you would like to do a virtual session. We also are located in Green Bay. Anyone in the Green Bay area? Okay, so we're off of Webster Avenue in Alloway, off of 172. We primarily serve Brown County. However, we do virtual appointments with individuals all over if that is something that's of interest, or if you want to come visit us in Green Bay, we'd be happy to have you. All right, so let's play the video so that you know who we are and how we got started.
We take for granted our health until we don't have it.
1 in 6 people will be impacted by a brain disease or condition in their life.
One of the brain issues we all deal with is we're getting older. The degenerative conditions, the Alzheimer's, the Parkinson's, and mental illness, depression, anxiety. The disease is the challenge, and how you deal with it is your challenge. 7 years ago, Dr. David Donarski, retired psychiatrist and good friend, said we should start meeting and talking about things that can be done to make brains better. And that started the movement to get into the brain center.
It used to be that you just expected your brain to be okay, but now you really do have to challenge it by nutrition, exercise, stimulation, and sleep.
The overall mission of the Brain Center is really to raise awareness and educate all generations and stimulate action so that we can prevent these diseases that are impacting our loved ones. We focus on brain health, prevention of brain diseases and neurodegenerative diseases, helping those that have those diseases, and looking to find better ways so that we are not impacted and the prevalence of those diseases can continue to go down. The 5 founders who came together were practicing physicians in this community, loved this community, raised their children and their families in this community, and wanted to help their neighbors. We have volunteer coaches that will meet with families and really discuss what they're going through, help them better understand the symptoms they might be experiencing, so some of the medical part of it, but then also just being a listening ear. So our coaches help establish that trust with those families, and we do that through our model of CARE, C-A-R-E. We collaborate with other organizations in the community. We advocate for those that have these diseases so they feel welcome, included, and understood. We promote research and the advancement of science to keep bettering and bettering the way that we're treating these illnesses, and then we educate. So helping everyone understand what they individually and proactively can be doing for their brain health every day. We work with schools, employers, other groups, other nonprofits to educate what we can all be doing to better our brain health every day. When the Brain Center was founded, it was important to the founders that we would not charge for our services. But because of that, we rely on the generosity of the community and donors to make that a reality for us.
We want to build the positive things. Let's take charge. And that's what we're trying to do with the Brain Center, is to not only educate people, but motivate them. We can make a difference. We all have care partners, and the more care partners we have, the easier it is for everybody.
All right. I also did bring some of our goodies up here as far as resources for some of our books, so feel free to come up after. I know we're more of a time crunch right now. And then you also have a survey in front of you if you wouldn't mind filling that out for us at the end. That's just to let us know what you'd like to learn more about, how we did. We're always trying to expand our program and services. So the video talked about our care approach. We don't do it alone in Green Bay. We collaborate with other agencies, other organizations. We work with all ages, all groups, small groups, large groups, the kiddos at the YMCA programs, churches, early memory loss program. We advocate. So a lot of times individuals come to us that were just diagnosed with something, Parkinson's, or maybe they had a stroke and they don't know where to go. You see your doctor maybe once every 6 months. Well, what are the resources in my community? So we're there to hear you out, talk with you, and then refer you out to the resources that you need. And then we promote research. So that is our volunteer coaches. They're all retired or semi-retired physicians, social workers, RNs, and they like to meet one-on-one with individuals for the coaching to give their expertise. And then we educate what I'm doing here today, like I mentioned, with all different groups. So our 2 types of programs and services, we like to just dive into it as these 2 branches. And you could go on our website, like I mentioned, but our coaching program is going to be those 6 pillars that Dr. Lulloff will dive into. We could talk 45 minutes for each pillar, but we don't have that time today. And we're all unique and different, so that's why we invite you in for a coaching session to meet one-on-one to say, okay, well, how's my sleep? Because my sleep's going to be different than yours. How is my eating? I like my bag of M&Ms, right? But you might eat really healthy but not run. So when you think about your health, it's about looking at your whole lifestyle and connecting with a coach on that. And then the community education. If you're in our area or if you'd like us to come to your organizations, we do community outreach or community education on all of our 6 pillars. And on our website, we have more presentations that we have available. All right, so this will be my slide, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Lulloff. But I like this image because this is our brain. It's 3 pounds. And you see that diagram, how things are moving and interweaving. Our brains are automatic. They're 3 pounds, and they create our emotions, drive our memories, and every movement that we do. How you got to this room just from lunch was, it took time, but your brain is so automatic. Did you remember passing that person? Did you remember taking that brochure or that Snickers that you passed? So it's really incredible to think about our brain health. And like anything, if I have diabetes, I'm going to check my blood sugar. If I have congestive heart failure, I'm going to take my medication or weigh myself. Same thing with your brain health. There are ways to slow down progression of diseases and maintain it and improve your brain health. So we want to eliminate that stigma of brain health. So I have a question for you. How many thoughts per day do you feel we have on average? I heard 1 million. I heard someone say 70,000. You are correct. On average, we have 70,000 thoughts per day. And guess what's tied to those thoughts? Emotions, memories. So it's pretty incredible how much our brain takes in each day. Do you think this is a fact or a myth? Humans only use 10% of their brain. It is a myth. And how do you know it's a myth? Oh, she's looking at the book. Oh, shoot, it's a Hedda. I didn't even think about that. But yes, it's a myth because what we're trying to say here is we don't know. We do use more than 10% when we're sleeping, right? And I liked this because we have only been studying our brains for about 200 years. That's not a long time. Back in Egyptian times, they used to discard our brain for mummification. They kept the heart, the lungs, and they thought, the brain just controls our heat. So it's pretty neat to think of our brain as a vital organ because it controls everything that we do. And then other fascinating facts we like to talk about, it generates electricity to light a light bulb. It's made up of 75% of water. So dehydration as small as 2% can negatively impact your brain function. And then it contains 100 billion neurons. All right, so we are going to start with why we're all different. Because like I said, how I sleep, how I exercise, my nutrition is going to be different than yours. My brain health is going to be different. Our pillars of brain health, we'll go through those 6, which is what we focus on in our coaching sessions. We're going to talk about dealing with Parkinson's, what that requires from Dr. Lulloff's perspective, and then conclusion. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lulloff.
Thank you, LaReina. Can you hear me all? If you can't, if I forget and put this down like this, wave at me, and we'll put it back up. So, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for coming. This is awesome this day. I'm a Badger, born and raised in Wisconsin. Pertinent information, strong family history of Alzheimer's disease for me. I've got the genetic marker. Yeah, I'm 81, and sometimes I have my senior moments, lots of them. 56 and a half years of marriage to my wonderful wife, Annie. We met at UW-Madison. She has kept me in line for a long, long time. We spent the first 9 of 10 years of marriage in Madison, 3 children. I finished my orthopedic training, went in the Army for 2 years, and then ended up in Green Bay. We were married 56 and a half years. At age 36, after having been married 12 years, Anne lost her sense of smell. We didn't know what it was. Over the next 13 years, she battled with panic attacks, with depression, with visual problems. We didn't know what those things were. We saw good doctors. Nobody thought that Parkinson's disease that was happening And then at age 49, she started to have the tremors. She was an outstanding tennis player. She started to trip on the tennis court. She lacked the coordination she had to have. Saw her doctor. In fact, her doctor saw her at a Christmas party, and the next day told me, Rolf, I need to see the two of you. Ann's got Parkinson's. And I said, yeah, I know. Turns out her mother, by that time, was in a memory care unit with advanced brain disorder. And actually, I'm sure she had Parkinson's too. At any rate, so at age 49, we sat, heard the word from her doctor. You've got Parkinson's disease. He said, do you have any questions? After he thoroughly explained everything to her, there's so much we can do. So the future is not all bad. It's, in fact, it's bright. That was 31 years until she passed away. So at age 49, we get in the car and she melted down and said, I'll never see our kids get married. We'll never see grandkids. I can't play tennis anymore. My life is over. She was crying. I was crying next to her. I hugged her. I said, Annie, I love you dearly. I always have and I always will. You don't have to worry. I'm going to be with you forever. And I said, we're going to be in our own house forever. You don't have to worry. We got wonderful kids. You've got wonderful friends. We're going to make a difference. The enemy is the damn disease. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. We will make a difference. We went on with lifestyle. 31 years later, God saw to it that she slept away peacefully at home, because by that time, the Parkinson's had been working on her brain for at least 45 years. We found ways to deal with all that crap, and we did. We traveled. We went to Europe 12 times after she was diagnosed. We got a condominium in Florida. I was still working full-time. She was mobile. We walked the beach and we did all sorts of things for 19 years. We made a difference. The pillars that you're going to hear were pertinent things that we learned. Did I learn that in school? No. I learned it in the lab on 2520 Betty Court where we lived. We learned. She taught me. And I learned that I had to do things with her, understanding her brain, because her brain was where the problems were. I needed to make sure my brain was not a problem. And that means take care of me, but not only that, but to understand that I have to understand it for her. And that makes a huge, huge difference. Our lifestyle is so critical. Love is the best treatment. Hugs are the best treatment. But the 6 pillars that we have are critically important. Next. So, we all have to know ourselves because we are all different. And our needs from day to day, in fact, sometimes from minute to minute, are different. So, you have to understand yourself and you have to understand your care partner and the people that are important around you. Whether you are the one afflicted with Parkinson's or whether you're the one that can help somebody with Parkinson's or any brain disorder. So, we have to know ourselves because our brains are the control center for our body. The memory, the mood, the thinking, the executive function. Think what I said earlier. What did Ann have before she was diagnosed? She had panic attacks. That was her brain. She had depression. That was her pain. That was her brain. And yeah, she took antidepressants. She didn't want to, but it helped her carry on an amazing life. Next. So we're all different. Some of it's genetic. Some of it's our exposures. That Roundup that we put on our weeds is bad stuff. There's no doubt about that. If you have the ability to talk to your legislators and everybody else, say, we have to stop these poisons. If you are in Scandinavia, they don't allow those poisons. The number of people with Parkinson's disease is going down in Finland and in Sweden and in Norway. In the United States, it's going up because we got all these damn poisons that we get exposed to. So try to avoid that stuff. And our needs are different. We are all different. But you find ways to do the tools that you can use. And that's learning how to do it, motivating yourself, get the education, and you're here to see that. And did I learn all this stuff in school? I learned it in the lab on Betty Court with Annie, and she taught me. She was a great teacher. Next. So, our brains can change. We can take our bad habits and stop them, and we can use the parts of our body that are working well to substitute for the parts that aren't. And that goes with the brain, too. We can train our brain, and I'll give you a couple of quick examples of that. It's called neuroplasticity, and indeed it does work. It's the process underlying all learning and training and rehabilitation. And our brains will do so much if we take charge of them. Think of all the automatic things we do, and we don't pay any attention to them until we need them. So be careful in how you do things. Next. So what are the pillars? We categorize them into 6 things. It's just easier to sort of remember them. The most important pillar, well, first of all, the most important pillar is love and understanding and the emotional support and having a team. But as far as the tools we can use, physical exercise, there's no doubt about it. Physical exercise is critically important. Does that mean that you need to be a marathoner? No, you need to keep moving. Keep moving appropriately for you and find the ways to keep moving. Sometimes it's just as simple as having a good chair that you can sit on and stand up and sit down and stand up and sit down and stand up and sit down. Every time you sit down, stand up 3 times. But make sure it's a good chair, because falling is never allowed. Never, ever, ever allowed. So keep moving. So if you think about every time you sit down, 3 times stand up. Every time you go to stand up, sit down and stand up 3 times. Have good arms on that chair to support you. If you're not stable, don't do it. Have somebody work with you. Have a care partner. If you can't have a care partner, get a good physical therapist. Train. Take charge. Take charge for yourself and the people that are around you. Don't let your care partner get away with something that's dangerous or risky. So, exercise, physical exercise, definitely stimulates your brain. It puts out chemicals. Your muscles, when you are exercising, when you're moving, like I'm just standing around here right now, when you're doing that, you produce chemicals that go to your brain that stimulate the connections that you have in your brain between the nerve cells, protects those connections, and even will produce new brain cells if you take care of yourself with the other pillars. So that's called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, stimulates your brains. It slows the aging of the physical exercise, slows the aging of our body and our brain, makes your bones stronger, it makes your heart stronger. Your heart The better your heart is, the better your brains are. The better your brain is, the better your heart is. Take care of it all. Boost your energy. Best treatment for depression is physical exercise, better than pills. There are times that you need pills, no doubt about that. But if I want to get my body and my brain awake in the day, I started off with meditation and prayer, out loud with Annie. And she sets my priorities right then. And then I wake up my body by moving in bed, lifting my legs, doing some careful pelvic tilts to to make my butt muscles and my abdominal muscles tighten up to protect my back. My back's 81, and some days it hurts. If I do my exercises, it doesn't hurt as much. Take charge. And when you physically stimulate your brain in the morning, when you stimulate your body, you stimulate your brain, and your brain then is ready to perform for that day. And so I come down here to talk to you guys. I know I need to have my brain stimulated, ready to talk. So it works better, and it helps your immune system. Next. Second pillar, you need energy, you need fuel. Our body burns up all sorts of fuel. The brain, as we said earlier, burns up 20% of the energy that we have. But your heart is beating all the time, so it's using some. Thank you. I apologize on dropping this down. We are what we eat. Okay, we need fuel, and we need fuel for energy, but we need the things we eat for the structure in our body too, to make our brains better. Our brains are filled with fat, healthy fat. Our brains need that healthy fat. So don't eliminate fat because you think you might be a little bit fat. It's the carbohydrates, the bad carbohydrates you eat that make you fat. We need good proteins. Fortunately, pasture-raised or wild-caught animals, salmon. I love salmon. Healthy carbohydrates. The healthy, colorful, non-starchy vegetables and fruits. Next. Good things. Green leafy vegetables and salads. Coconut oil. Coconut oil is amazing for energy. The problem is you don't have too much too soon. Pardon the French, but it creates disaster pants if you have too much too soon. So maybe a teaspoon is okay, and then you find out. I tested a tablespoon and I regretted it. Avocados are great. Interestingly, coffee is great. Dark chocolate is great. Omega-3 fatty acids, that's the salmon and the good healthy oils. Very, very good. Berries, it's wonderful in this day and age. Well, most of you probably never had blueberries other than in the summertime when the blueberries locally were good. Now you can get them in the stores. So the healthy berries are wonderful. Next. Okay, the third pillar, cognitive stimulation. Stimulate your brain. Socialization, talking to people, coming to this meeting, reading, finding something that really turns you on, playing the piano. Find your toy that turns you on and do it, and socialize. So, cognitive stimulation comes from some of the physical activities, our gardening, our dancing, moving. Stimulation with music, art, theater. Keep learning. Social activities and spirituality and meditation and religious support is powerful. Next. Sleep is critically important. If you put all these things together, they're all important. But sleep allows your brain to clean itself up every night. So you find a way to do it. I knew I had to get up early to drive down here this morning, and so I set the alarm, which I rarely have to do. Went to bed at 10 o'clock, and I thought, I'm all wired up. I'm going to cheat. I don't do this very often. I took a NyQuil. I have found when I had a bad cold that when I took a NyQuil, I slept better. And indeed, I woke up 4:45 this morning before the alarm went off, and I felt rested. I felt energized with the NyQuil. Now, I don't do that every night, but for me, I found it does work. If you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning to go to the bathroom, and you get back in bed and you say, I'm so wide awake, I can't get back to sleep, the best thing I've found is pick up something to read, go out on the couch with a blanket, and start reading it. And if it's interesting, which usually for me it's reading something about the brain, pretty soon I find myself falling asleep. As soon as you fall asleep, start feeling that way, put your book down right away, carefully get back to bed, and tell your brain, don't think. Don't think. And it's amazing how often you will find a powerful dream that you can remember 2 hours later. And that powerful dream is getting rid of crap in your brain, especially bad memories and stress. And one of the books, the Walker book on the brain, explains all this theory that works. So sleep prunes our brain, takes things that our brain doesn't have the capacity to remember. So sleep keeps us healthy, mentally sharp, able to deal with stress. And people who don't get enough sleep eat too much. And unfortunately, it's usually eating stuff that's not necessarily as good for them either. You give me one potato chip and I'll eat the whole bag. Okay, I've learned, don't have the potato chips sitting around because they are addicting. Fatigue and not sleeping well interferes with your ability to exercise and do the other good things too. Next. So, establish a sleep schedule. I try to go to bed every night at 9:30. Problem is, if I watch the Brewers like they were last night, I go to bed depressed. The Bucks, the same thing. So, avoid naps during the day. Keep that bedroom cool, 65 degrees. And don't watch TV in bed. Don't read in bed. If you have something you got to read, do it out on the couch. Hopefully you'll get sleepy, then you can get to bed. But don't read in bed, and don't play with the computer. And avoid the sleep-damaging effects of alcohol and caffeine. Both interfere with sleep. Next, stress. A little bit of stress is good. It motivates us to take action. Too much stress, that chronic stress of worrying. You want to avoid that in some way. Meditation can help. Having positive experiences can help. Smiling. You know, when you walk, and I apologize, I haven't been smiling much as I've been talking. LaReina said, make sure you smile, and I forget to do that. But you know, you're walking down the street and you see somebody. If you give them a smile, it's amazing how often they'll give you a smile. Or sometimes I need that smile given to me. So we're all in this together, and we can have influence. So stress. Meditation, deep breathing exercises, you bet. Relax to music, yes. yoga and physical exercise is very helpful. And there are times that you should have counseling to help pound these ideas into your brain. Next. Avoid the sixth pillar, avoid toxins, illnesses, and injuries. Okay, I like to focus on injury just for a minute. Falling is never allowed. Falling is never allowed. Our exercise sheet shows some things that you can do for exercise. Take charge of it. You can't fall because sooner or later, as you get older, if you fall, it's going to be a head injury. I know 2 people, age 80 to 82, dynamic people who seemed normal the last time I saw them. Within 2 to 3 weeks, tripped, fell, brain damage, dead within 3 weeks. Okay, you can't fall. And of course, the broken hip wipes people out for 3 months to 6 months. Even under good orthopedic care, it makes a difference. Toxins, poisons, we mentioned that. Avoid the Roundup, avoid the poisons. Even the blue-green algae in Wisconsin in August, it's that green scum on the water. Don't go in that water. And if the wind is blowing it toward you and you can smell it, go elsewhere because you are inhaling a neurotoxin. Those of you who have been to Florida and red tide, the red tide is an algae and it contains a neurotoxin. When the red tide is bad, the fish eat the algae and they die. And before the fish die, they're swimming around and the dolphins eat them, and the dolphins will beach themselves because of psychiatric brain damage and die. The science is there. So don't go in that water, and don't go where you can smell it. Alcohol. We have to be real proud of the fact that Green Bay, Wisconsin is the #1 city for alcohol abuse in the country. Shame, shame, shame on us. The college towns, 10 of the 20 top cities in the United States that have a huge alcohol problem are in Wisconsin. Do I like a cocktail once in a while? Yeah, I do. Did I used to drink more than that? Yeah. I think I saved most of my brain, but I learned there's no way I would have a cocktail the night or 2 nights before coming down here and talking to you guys, because I know I struggle. So don't do it. So alcohol produces short-term and long-term memory loss, problems with learning, your brain shrinks, and the possibility of developing dementia is real. So, next. So what do we have to do? We have to deal with the Parkinson's, with our brains, and we can do that. Okay, love and understanding is first and foremost. Build and maintain trust with the people that are important to you. Share the challenges. We all need support from time to time. In fact, Annie and I needed it all the time. And not only for her, but for me. It made me have the energy and the comfort level to do that. Share the challenges, educate, guide, practice the 6 pillars. There are times you need medication. You talk to your doctors, and patience. I learned I had to consider everything through Annie's brain, and she kept teaching me all the time. Next. So I will say one thing before I go quickly into the books. and that is we had a wonderful marriage. About 2.5 years ago, or 2.5 years before she took her last breath, we had a bad day. We could almost always turn a bad day into a good day. We'd put Neil Diamond music on and we'd stand and we'd prance. We'd hug. We'd put John Denver, Annie's song. Annie, and I'd play it over and over again. We found ways to do things, but this one day, I couldn't turn the day around. I said, we went to bed. We always slept together. Snuggled up to her, and I said, I love you, Annie. And she said, I love you too, honey. I said, it's been a crappy day, hasn't it? And she said, it sure has. I said, we are going to make tomorrow and all our days in the future better. I had never prayed out loud. I always quietly would say the Lord's Prayer when I'd go to bed. I snuggled up to her and I said, Our Father who art in, and with that Annie joined me. And we said the Lord's Prayer. When we got done, I said, God, you have so eminently blessed Annie and me. You've given us life on this wonderful earth. You've given us wonderful parents. And most of all, you've given us each other. We had a crappy day today. And Annie and I are pledged to not have any more bad days. And with your love and support, God, we are going to have all our good days. 2.5 years after that, when Annie took her last breath, we never had a bad day. We prayed every night. It made a difference. It made a difference to me. I didn't used to talk about that. I thought it was more private. It isn't private. We have to know ourselves. We have to know our needs. I think we can all make a difference. We have an opportunity. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys. And the books, these are 6 books or 8 books that we think are important. On the other hand, some of them are fairly heavy. But the most up-to-date one is on the bottom row, entitled Outlive. That book came out 3 weeks ago. This is top-notch stuff. It's a little bit heavy. If you have heart problems, if you have cholesterol problems, you get weighed down on a little bit. Okay, but there are parts in it that are just so exciting. We're all human, and we can make a difference in our lives. And we can't tell you everything in an hour, but we try. So thanks for listening, and we're glad to... time for questions. Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Pardon? What are the bad carbohydrates? Simple sugars, primarily, the 2 main simple sugars are glucose and fructose. Fructose is known as fruit sugar. So an orange and a grapefruit has a lot of fructose in it. That's okay if you eat the rest of it. And so I do. I don't have orange juice. Orange juice is heavy carbohydrate, and you don't need that. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is virtually all fructose. The problem with that simple sugar is the body, especially the liver, does not process it well. And so the fructose goes to the liver, and the liver turns it into fat. The trouble is, unless you are aggressively exercising, the fat stays in the liver and accumulates and accumulates. You can imagine, hey, if you have 2 Cokes a day and you are not exercising, that turns your liver into a fatty liver. The fatty liver, if you don't attack it, and a quarter of the people on this earth have a fatty liver. So I am at risk for that because of my family history. Diabetes, the same thing. Diabetes contributes to a fatty liver. And the fatty liver, if it gets well established, turns into cirrhosis, and especially if you have a couple of alcohol drinks, and that cirrhosis clogs up the liver, and all of a sudden there's no treatment. It's liver failure or it's liver transplant. This is a huge problem, and this is just really coming from the abnormal carbohydrates that we tend to do. I mentioned earlier the potato chips. I mean, the potato chips are terrible. There are things you can snack on. Whole grain bread, not a lot, but some is great. Good, healthy proteins, and we could talk for a couple hours on the nutritional aspects of things. We have specific handouts on nutrition. 10 meaning 10 minutes? Oh, I'm surprised we have time. Yay. What do I think about napping? Napping's okay unless it interferes too much with your ability to sleep. So, yeah, periodically I'll find myself falling asleep and usually reading. That's okay. But if you're napping an hour to 2 hours a day, that's probably a problem unless you're sleeping well at night. So you want to balance it out. Okay, great question, great question. What do we think about probiotics? Okay, we didn't get into this at all. Our intestinal tract has trillions of bacteria in it. Now, do bacteria cause infections in certain areas? Yes. Those bacteria are alive. And what do? That's why you want to eat the entire orange or the entire grapefruit except for the outer skin, because that puts fiber into your intestinal tract, and the intestinal tract can't break that up so it gets absorbed as fuel. The bacteria love it. They eat it. Okay, now there are good bacteria and there are bad bacteria. The good bacteria you want growing, so that depends a little bit on how you eat and what you do. There are a couple of books out on that stuff, and this is just really taking off as far as science. You're going to hear a lot more. So it's a darn good question to probiotics. No, what you want to do is eat a healthy diet, and then you probably won't need probiotics. You feed the bacteria in your intestinal tract by the food you're having. So, heavy grain foods, the healthy colored vegetables, the fruit, and the farm-raised beef. Now, some people say, no, you shouldn't have red meat. It's okay. I would not have red meat 3 or 4 times a week, but once or twice a week is probably okay. But the seafood, the salmon is wonderful. Not farm-raised, out of the ocean, because it is loaded with healthy fats and healthy proteins. Yes? How does good brain health, what? Okay, how do you prevent falls by good brain health? Number one, awareness. Think, hey, I'm having trouble. If you feel unstable, don't keep testing it, because sooner or later you're going to fall. So there's simple things you can do, but it's all individual. So what I do, these stairs are dangerous. There's no handrails. Okay? I'll go up one step at a time. I don't feel safe going every time. Okay? The best exercise machines you have in your house. Number one, the kitchen counter and the bathroom counter. It's stable. Okay, what do I do every day? I stand up, make myself tall. I hold on for balance because falling is never allowed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. Now, if you're stable doing that, that should be okay. If you're not stable, have your care partner on the other side and still carefully try to do it if you can. Keep moving. Now, that's not a problem when you're 25 and 30. It sneaks up on all of us when we're 60. And all of a sudden you say, gee, I can't do that quite as well as I used to. Okay, don't let it happen. Start doing your exercises now. And we've got a handout that talks about doing that. We could spend an hour talking about safe exercise. But yes, you want to do something. You don't just ignore it. The book on Outlive talks about that, how important it is for us to take charge, because you're talking about the quality of life and the risk of losing your life, but more than that, the quality of life. Once you break your hip, it's a setback which is huge. And if it hurts your brain, it's even worse. So.
Well, we are out of time, but we're going to hang out here if you want to come check out our books, our resources. Please fill out the evaluation for us to know how we did, some things you'd want to learn about, and to stay connected with the Brain Center. So again, we have dived deep into these 6 pillars and other presentations, so we'd be happy to tailor a presentation for your group or come to our future ones. So thank you all.